Hey everyone, this is Phil, and welcome to our first full video of 2024. Hopefully you find this educational and a little entertaining. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that affects many airsofters, being bad at airsoft. This is a topic that's come up in our personal airsoft lives many times over the years, and we have conversation about this pretty regularly on our Discord server as well. And it can take a variety of different shapes, from the idea that, you've been playing for a couple of years and you can't seem to improve, or maybe despite doing everything right, you're not making any progress in your airsoft play, or maybe you just think you flat out suck at airsoft. So we're going to dive into the reasons why that might be in this video, and I guarantee you that by the end of this video you will have a much better understanding of why it is that you think you suck at airsoft and what you can do about it. And if you're saying, well, Phil, that doesn't apply to me because I'm great at airsoft, well, good for you, buddy, but nobody likes to show off. So let's get to it. Whenever anyone tells me that they feel they should be better at something than they are, I generally ask them three specific questions to understand their problem a little bit more. As they relate to airsoft, those questions would be, number one, how do you define being good at airsoft? Number two, on what basis do you feel you should be better at airsoft than you are? And number three, what are you doing to try and improve? These questions help us dig into the rationale for that person's feeling and also simultaneously point us towards a path for improvement. So let's look at our first question, which is, how do you define being good at airsoft? Generally speaking, players will point to the fact that they get killed a lot. They spend too much time in the respawn zone for the amount of opposing players that they take out. In their minds, they should be doing all sorts of aggressive flanking moves, pushing the field hard, taking out several players and winning the game, or at least doing better than just trading one for one. This issue is multifaceted, starting with the fact that being an effective airsoft player is a lot more than just about how many opponents you can take out. For instance, if you get hit during a game by a BB that actually would have hit another player, and that player, because you took the hit for them, ends up winning the game, wasn't that an effective use of your overall team resources? That's actually worthwhile, but you might not feel that way because you got taken out. It's like, oh, I'm no good at airsoft. But in fact, you actually helped the team in that instance. So the issue is a little bit more nuanced than that. Or let's say you're providing suppressive fire for a teammate who pushes the objective and wins the whole game for the team. Isn't that being a good and effective airsoft player regardless of whether your suppressive fire hit anybody else on the opposing team? If you were to reevaluate your airsoft performance in this way by looking at those examples, would it change the way that you feel about your own airsoft performance? You need to clearly define what being good at airsoft means to you. That way you can know whether or not you're improving against that particular metric. Otherwise, you will constantly feel like you're lacking. And let's be very clear, keeping track of your KD ratio is pretty cringe. So maybe you pick something else, such as how many games you feel you made a positive impact on. And if you're not really sure, you can certainly ask a teammate, hey, do you think I made a positive contribution in that game? And use that as the guidance that you need of whether or not you are progressing in the way that you want to. Another facet of when we feel we're bad at something can occur when we fixate on the areas that we feel are negative, at the detriment of the ones that are actually positive. This is human nature. Just think about your work life, for example. Have you been having a good day one day and then one rude customer comes in and basically derails your entire day? I'm sure you have. I know I have. But the reality is, if you objectively looked at that day, that was only one small portion of an otherwise okay day. The exact same thing happens in airsoft, especially if you end your day playing with a negative experience. You'll leave the field feeling like you're trash at the sport, even though in an objective way you had an otherwise pretty decent airsoft day. So the tip here is to think about the skills you want to improve on, such as communicating more effectively or utilizing cover a little bit better or camouflage and concealment. And make a mental note anytime you have a particularly good time. That way you can track your improvement in a real, meaningful way. And this is a surefire way to make you feel like you are improving and progressing your skills. Another thing we sometimes encounter is a well-known human cognitive bias that occurs when you pick up a new skill or hobby like airsoft. When you start, you don't know nearly enough about the hobby to know how bad you are. As you gain experience though, you know a lot more about the hobby and you quickly realize just how much you have yet to learn, which can be quite daunting for some people. Typically, this feeling is not relative to your experience, which is to say that it can feel like you are much worse than you objectively are. And it can take a while to build back that confidence. So if you, right now, feel like you might be existing in this low point of cognitive bias, the best thing for you to do is to set clear indicators that show you that you are actually progressing and gaining experience. Fundamentally though, it just takes time and experience. So you really need to trust the process, give yourself a little bit of grace, and just keep hammering it. So that was question 1. How do you define being good at Airsoft? The second question I ask is, on what basis do you feel you should be better at Airsoft than you are? And a typical answer that I get to this question generally refers to years playing. You might expect that if you've been playing Airsoft for a few years, you should be more of an intermediate player. The issue with this is that many Airsofters do not play Airsoft frequently enough that years playing becomes a relevant metric for skill and experience. Looking at an extreme example of this, our friends in Australia have been playing Airsoft since 2013, so over 10 years. But in that time, they've only played approximately once a year on average. So would it make sense for them to quote the number of years that they've been playing Airsoft as the reason alone for their increased skill and performance? Of course not. Now, this is an extreme example, but if you look at a more normal example, many Airsofters play Airsoft maybe once a month or once every couple of weeks. Let's take someone who plays Airsoft once a month. If they've been playing Airsoft for 2 years, that means that they've played Airsoft 24 times. How good would you expect someone to be after doing something for 24 times? Certainly better than a beginner, say, being able to grasp certain concepts. But the 24th time I played football, or the 24th time that you played another sport, you probably weren't that great at it. And so why would it be any different with Airsoft? One contributing factor to this feeling is the consumption of Airsoft content, like this video. If you watch a lot of gameplay videos, read technical manuals, listen to podcasts like Call Your Hits every Wednesday, wherever you get your podcasts, you're spending a lot of time thinking about Airsoft concepts, and this can absolutely create a sense of knowledge about the hobby. It can feel like you're playing Airsoft a lot more than you actually are, but this is not a replacement for actual experience. You have to go out and apply all these things that you're learning in actual Airsoft games, and fundamentally, you don't have the experience of doing that yet. To give you a tangible example of this, I've been playing chess since I was a kid, but in my adulthood, I've consumed a lot of chess content. So I'm very familiar with concepts such as skewers and pins and so on. And I can spot tactics when I'm watching people's games, but when it's my games, when I'm the one under stress, I very often miss basic ideas. So even though I can rattle off concepts like the bishop pair or sacrificing the rook, I'm still bad at chess. But when I play, it can sometimes feel like I should be better than I am. Coming back to Airsoft, I'm sure most of you know that before you enter a doorway, you need to slice the pie. It's a very basic tactical principle. You might have watched people drilling this yourself. Maybe you've compared how different surfaces actually perform the movement, how you lean your torso, how you do it offside, etc. How many times have you practiced this drill with your kit on? How many times have you done this during a game? I would wager that for the vast majority of us, we have watched people do this way more than we have practiced it ourselves. Maybe you have done the drill and you practiced it a few times and felt like you got it, and then moved on to another drill. The result of this is an imbalance that makes you feel that you should be better than you actually are, that you have skills that you do not actually have. The other thing that you get from watching content creators, especially when you're watching experts, is the sense that what they're doing is easy, when in reality, the reason that it looks easy is the result of years of learning, practice, expertise, and discipline. When you watch a team slice a pie and enter a room, this isn't their first time doing it. This is probably their 100th time, their 1000th time. You don't get to see all of the work that goes behind all of that. You just watch them do it and you go, oh, cool, I got it. No, you don't. You do not got it. You need to go out there and practice, practice, practice. In other words, if you feel like you should be better than you actually are, chances are that you are overestimating your own abilities compared to the reality of your actual capabilities. You are exactly as good as you should be, given all of the things that you've done in Airsoft so far. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a developing player or having a low skill level, but if you mistakenly believe that you should be better than you are, this misalignment can be extremely frustrating for you. Finally, the third question I ask players in this situation is, what are you doing to try and improve? If you think you suck at Airsoft, presumably that means that you want to get better. So what's your plan? Obviously, we've talked about Airsoft drills a fair amount on this channel before, and we've especially focused on very basic drills of late, such as ready-ups, shoulder transitions, and primary reloads. Those are foundational drills that help improve your personal skills, regardless of the in-game context you're in, whether that's milsim, speedsoft, whatever. So they're a great thing for all Airsofters to do, but does that mean that doing 1,000 ready-ups per week will turn you into an amazing player? Obviously not, and not just because ready-ups aren't the only skill that make an Airsofter good. In many cases, players conflate quantity with quality. If you do a large number of drills or you've played a ton of games, that does not necessarily directly correlate with an improvement in skill. You might be doing the drills wrong or making the same mistake on the field over and over. The quality of the activity is key to learning, and the best way to extract quality from your activities is to look for feedback wherever you can and really reflect on what you did and how it went. Airsofters love to throw the term AAR, after action review. They love to throw AARs around. There's typically an AAR after big events in milsims that describe how the game went and who won, etc. But these are mostly just game summaries and explaining sort of what happened. At its core, an after-action review is a technique that many organizations, not just the military, employ to identify opportunities for improvement to the execution of a task, and to outline what happened and why without assigning blame. An AAR is all about outlining what will be done next time this situation comes up, which for us in Airsoft is indispensable because we very often end up doing the same stuff over and over. I know that this might sound very formal, but it doesn't have to be. It can be very, very easy to implement. After a match, or maybe after you get tagged out, just ask yourself, what went well that game and what could I have done differently? And be honest with yourself. Don't lie to yourself. If you got hit because you got lazy and weren't using cover well, commit to not doing that again. If you got disconnected from your teammate and got turned around on the field, then think about what you might do differently next time. Obviously, it's possible that you didn't make any mistakes. You were using cover effectively, you were communicating well, you applied good fundamentals, the opposing team just got the drop on you. It's like Captain Picard said,
"It is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose."
At its core, Airsoft is a game of opposing teams, and the other team very much gets a say in how your game went. So if you truly can't think of anything you could have done differently or better, then just chalk it up to a good job by the other guys and move on. As a side note, you can apply that exact same line of questioning to your broader team if you have one. After the game, you can ask, what went well for us in that game? What did we do well, and what could we have done differently? Take a couple of minutes to really dig into those ideas and then file away the learnings for future use. Now, I know some of you are thinking, wow, Phil, that's a lot of effort for Airsoft. It's just a game. I want to go out there and have fun with my friends. Absolutely. Go ahead and do that. Fill your boots. Have as much fun as you want. But if you are frustrated with your own performance at Airsoft and you truly want to improve and improve more quickly than other players around you, then actively and diligently learning from your mistakes is the #1 way to do that, bar none. When you're just starting out at Airsoft, or if you're down in the dumps about your own Airsoft abilities, it can feel like everybody around you is much better than you are. But in the immortal words of Jake the dog, sucking at something is the first step to being sorta good at something. If you take the time to dispassionately evaluate where you are today, what you're trying to achieve, and come up with a strategy to get there, your Airsoft performance will improve by leaps and bounds, and certainly much faster than if you were just going out there mindlessly playing game after game. So there it is. If you think you suck at Airsoft, hopefully this video has given you a couple of things to think about to give you some perspective that might make you realize that actually maybe you're focusing on the wrong things and you're not as bad as you think you are. Let us know in the comments if that's the case. You can also join us on Discord. We'd love to have a conversation with you. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for supporting our channel. It really does mean a lot to us, and we'll see you next time. What are you still doing here? The video's over. Okay, well, since you're still here, let me just quickly tell you about the Storm Riders Foreign Legion. This is going to be a group of airsofters who are international, who will be wearing this particular patch at different events to rep our community. We'll be kicking this off at AMS Iron Horse this year, and if you want more details, please go ahead and join us on the Discord. All the information is going to be there as we get closer to the event. We can't wait to meet you in person, to get you to sign this flag and give you a patch. So now it's truly over. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.